Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in today and joining me for this yin yoga class. We are going to slow down and connect with our bodies, our minds, and our breath. So maybe today already you've been on the go around the house, watching kids, working, and you're still in that hustle and bustle mode. Be patient with yourself if it's hard to just put on the brakes and have to holding these poses for longer periods of time. Maybe it's the opposite, where you're just ready and craving stillness. Either way, there, also be patient with your mind as thoughts come up. Just let them wash through you, watch them flow in and out. And again, practice loving kindness towards yourself during this practice. Make sure everything is comfortable in the sense of no pain. Things may be a little uncomfortable due to the length of the poses that we hold or the positions, but make yourself as relaxed as possible within that discomfort. So if you're at home, I want you to grab 2 blocks, or if you don't have blocks, something that mimics a block. So you may or may not need these throughout your practice, but it could be a water bottle, something to prop your hands up on. If you don't have a blanket, go ahead and grab a bath towel and fold it in half again, and then roll it into this little roll. And we'll use that at the end of class. And then again, make sure if you don't have a block that one of your blocks can support your head towards the end of class. I also invite you to grab a sandbag if you have, or maybe that's a heavy bag of rice. Maybe that's a kitty cat if you have one, or a small dog. You may want to just lay on your stomach through some of these poses and provide that calming sensory feedback to your nervous system. And then create an environment that is comfortable and calming for yourself. So I was hoping to record outside today, but it's rainy and gloomy. So I have a fountain going, and I have essential oils and a diffuser going. So try to make it as relaxing and calming and soothing as possible. So maybe you light a candle, maybe you have very soft music playing in the background, or maybe it's just opening the window and letting in the noises from outside come in, or again, if possible, move your practice outside and enjoy the outdoors. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start in a hero's pose. So you may need a block or a blanket underneath your buttocks. So you're going to knees together, feet outside your hips, and then you'll sit on back. You're going to sit up nice and tall, palms down to feel a sense of grounding, of being calm. Palms up if you need to receive energy from around you, maybe some clarity, inviting openness. So find the comfortable position of your palms, and then let's connect with our breath. Breathing in deeply, exhaling, releasing everything. On that inhale, feel that belly fill up as if you're filling up a balloon. Maybe pause at the top. And then on your exhale, feel your chest, ribs, and belly fall as if you're deflating that balloon. And just welcome in the breath, the energy that provides you on that inhale. And on the exhale, just release, let go. Try not to hold anything back. Inhale, think of welcoming, inviting. Exhaling, think relax, letting go. And then place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. And on your next inhale, inhale love. And on your exhale, exhale peace. Inhale love, exhale peace. And continue that for 3 more rounds. Filling your body with love on the inhale. And then on the exhale, sending peace out into the environment around you. release this hero's pose, and we're gonna find a child's pose, wide-legged child's pose. So big toes together, knees mat's width apart. If you have your blocks or something you can prop your hands up on, go ahead and find those now. If you have blocks, find them on a middle level, or if you have a prop around your house, it's about 6-7 inches tall, and start there. Send your hips back towards your heels, walk your hands far out in front, and then release down. And begin with no activity at all, just reconnecting with your breath, feeling your pelvis heavy, your hands supported. Then maybe add in some action here, so press down through your palms, reach your fingertips forward, and maybe gently driving your hips back. So that with these isometric motion movements or actions, and combined with your breath, you can find length through your side bodies, maybe a stretch in your armpits, shoulders, side body. If at any point during these poses you begin to feel anxious or unsettled or antsy, come back to that beginning of inhaling love and exhaling peace. Giving yourself the grace, the permission to be still. Then you're going to walk your left hand to that right block or right support. And then your left hand is to that right block, and then your right hand's going to anchor down into the floor. Let your head rest on that upper arm of that left arm and open up into a twist here, just gently. Press down through your palms, reach through your fingertips, and then draw that armpit down towards the ground. If you want to go a little bit deeper, maybe you reach that right arm up towards the ceiling. Keep that chest open, then maybe that right hand finds the pocket of that left hip. So notice in these yin poses, you're still going to find action throughout your body. So the muscles will still work isometrically, and I will help guide you through that. And as you hold that, you'll play with relaxing the muscle activity, engaging, and going back and forth, and so that you can find release of tension, of strain in your fascia, the connective tissues between your muscles, in your organs, and your bones. Then gently release here. Come back to a neutral child's pose position, this time hands off the blocks. And then notice the difference here. And then we'll find that twist on the opposite side. So right hand comes across to the left block. Or support, head rests on that right upper arm. Finding a light supported twist here. Feel your sit bones heavy, letting them sink down into your heels. And if you want to take it a step further, inhale that left arm up towards the ceiling, keep that chest broad, and then maybe intertwine those left fingertips into that right hip crease. Send your breath into that right rib cage, maybe the area right below your shoulder blade. Keeping the breath deep and controlled and effortless. And then come back to center, walking your hands straight forward. This time, You'll bring thumb tips and index fingertips together, elbows bend, and find a child's pose here. So this will help soften and release your neck and your shoulders. Maybe let an exhale out your mouth, feeling more release, more softening. Then we're going to rise up into a tabletop position. We're just going to mobilize our spine by moving through some cat-cows here. So wrists under your shoulders, knees under your hips. On the exhale, press to the tops of your feet, round your lower back, middle back, upper back, take your gaze to your belly. On your inhale, tuck your toes, lift your tailbone, drop your belly, lift your chest and your gaze into your cow pose. Exhale, press through your shins and your palms, rounding your spine into that cat pose. Inhaling, arching and spreading the front of your body into that cow. Then continue at your own pace, moving with your breath. Notice when you're in that cat pose how your shoulder blades move away from your midline. And as you work your way into cow, how they hug back in. Chest is broad, collarbones spread. And then come back to that neutral position. Take a block, or if you have that blanket or towel roll, place that in between your upper thighs here. So we'll be in a position like this. We're not trying to find a death grip. You're just using that block as feedback to keep your hips anchored here. And then keep your hips right over your knees. You're going to walk your chest forward for puppy dog. Softening your heart and your chest towards the earth. Maybe you rest your forehead on the mat, or if it feels accessible in your neck, you can rest on your chin, gaze up. So the action here is coming in your hips. So you have a light inner squeeze on the block as you're pressing out into an imaginary strap. And you anchor down through your shin. So that's where you're finding your foundation. Core is slightly engaged. And then from there, just let your upper body, your chest, your arms, your head just completely relax. And gently press yourself back upright. And know that if at any time if I move past a pose and you're not ready to come out of it, you can always just press pause. So it's the joy of home videos. So go at your own pace. So you may need to speed it up a little bit, or maybe you just want to slow it down. You're going to remove the block between your inner thighs. And we're going to work into a thread the needle here. So ground through that left hand. Inhale, reach your right arm up towards the ceiling. And exhale, thread, right arm underneath the left. Reach that left arm alongside your left ear to start. Keep those hips square over your knees. And then press down through the outer edge of your right arm and through your left palm. See if you can find opening and broadening in your chest. Maybe it's just very subtle activation or movement. You can always take it a step further and thread that left arm into that right hip crease. Be moving back towards the back of your head. Gaze moving more up towards the ceiling. Observing your body, how it assimilates to the pose. Whether that be at the muscle or fascia level, or maybe with your breath, or maybe your mind. Maybe your mind begins to quiet more the longer you hold the position. Or perhaps it's the opposite, and you begin to get a little more busy in the mind. If that's the case, return to inhaling love, exhaling peace. As you feel ready, come back to that starting position. Maybe wag your tail or your head, roll your shoulders. And we'll find that twist on the opposite side. Spread through your right fingertips, ground through your palm. Inhale, lift up towards the ceiling. Exhale, thread and release. Right arm reaches long alongside your ears, or right ear. Left palm up towards the ceiling. And again, press through that left outer arm and down through that right palm. Draw that right shoulder down and back. Notice if that right hip has begun to creep forward, draw it down and back, squaring your hips. Maybe you take it a little bit deeper. Right arm reaches behind, threading into that left hip crease. Finding that anchor and that foundation through your thighs, your shins, your outer hips. And as you're in this twist, see if you can still find length in your spine. You're still growing long. Your sit bones are reaching up and back. Maybe the crown of your head is reaching towards the top of your mat. And then begin to unwind when you feel even to the other side. Again, you can walk it out here. Then we're going to move into a child's cobra flow. So we're going to go into a child's pose just briefly. And to get into our cobra, we're going to snake low along the ground. So drop your elbows towards the ground, biceps up towards the ceiling, and then send your heart forward. Your elbows will lift, hips lower, and you'll lift up into a little cobra here. Inhale here. Exhale, press through your palms, through your knees, lift your pelvis up and back into that child's pose. And then snake forward, core is engaged. Shoulders or elbows hugged in towards your midline as you lift up into that cobra. And then lift from your inner pelvis, rounding your spine back through that child's pose. So proceed with this child's cobra flow. Maybe building a little heat in your upper body, in your core. And then we'll take that in the opposite direction. So you'll press through your shins, you'll round through a cat spine, and then lower your hips. So you kind of be up in a higher cobra. My legs are relaxed here, my core is on, so I'm not dumping in my low back. Shoulders are drawing down and back. And I do have my shins pressing into the ground. And then inhale, lift up and back through that child's pose. And then wave it forward into that cobra. Exhaling, lifting up and back into that child's pose. Taking this movement at your own pace. Connecting with your breath. Then as you're heading back towards your next child's pose, come back into all fours. Tuck your toes under. Engage through your core. Spread through your fingertips. And then scoop biceps, elbow creases towards the top of your mat. Inhale here. Exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. In your first down dog, maybe pedal out your feet. Sway your hips from side to side. Maybe bend and straighten your elbows. Nod your head yes. Nod your head no. And then retreat to stillness. Finding ease amongst the effort here. core is engaged. You're grounding through that thumb, index, pinky, knuckle. Quadriceps are lifting. Heels are reaching down towards the earth, but you're not worried about heels reaching the ground. On your next inhale, lift your left leg up towards the ceiling. Keep your hips square. Left toes drawn in towards your face. Then on your exhale, sweep that foot through, shoulders over your wrists, and sweep that leg through into a low lunge here. So this is where you can find your blocks. Or maybe it's a chair. It's also an option, something to find support. And you're gonna walk that left foot to the outer edge of your mat. I'll turn and face you here. So walk it out wide, hands inside. That left leg for dragon pose. So you can start upright to find your actions. So ground through that right heel, or excuse me, left heel, right knee or shin. Just lightly, it's not super active. Hug that left knee in towards your midline, finding slight engagement, and then see if you can just settle in here. So with those slight actions, it allows you to let your pelvis and your hips release in a safe manner, as opposed to just letting everything open and dumping. There's a lot more pressure and strain there. So if you just give some slight activation and then release into the pose. Maybe you want to come down a little bit further. Forearms coming onto your blocks, maybe to the floor. Bring your awareness to your face and your neck. Notice any tension or grimacing. See if you can soften, maybe smile. Notice where you might be finding or feeling some discomfort. Make sure it's not pain or undue stress on your tendons or your ligaments. Maybe you need to back off a little bit, or maybe you can connect with your breath and settle in a little bit more, finding some discomfort or comfort in this discomfort. And then gently prop yourself back up, plant through your right hand, open up through that left leg, and find a revolved dragon here. Press that left palm into that left knee. Instead of pressing it straight down, kind of drive that wrist out through that thigh, as if you're pulling that knee out away from your hip instead of pressing it down towards the earth. See if your shoulders are up towards your ears. Draw them down and back. That'll cause or help your chest to broaden as a result. Maybe you take your gaze to the ground. Maybe it lifts up towards the ceiling. Two more breaths here. And then come back to center. You're going to send your hips back. We're going to find a runner's lunge variation. We're going to start with that leg externally rotated and that knee bent. You may find your block or your chair for support here. So I'm sending my hips back towards my heels, but my left leg is still bent. It's not fully straight, and my foot is out. So I'll take it from this angle too, if it's easier for you to see. So I'm sending my hips back, and then I'm open. So if you can, keep that hip stacked over that knee. And then let that left thigh just open up towards the floor. You can work with letting that left hip sag, maybe squaring that hip. That'll just change where you get the stretch in that hip lock. So maybe it's in those rotators of the hip and your piriformis, and your glutes, maybe down into that hamstring our IT band. And then we're going to take, keeping that foot or that leg externally rotated, so toes turned out towards the side, you're going to take this into a straight leg here. So my quad is active, kneecap is lifted. Press through your palms. Find length in your upper body. And then with that left thigh being active and engaged, see if you can let it be heavy at the same time. And then now articulate through your hips so your toes point up towards the ceiling. We'll find this traditional runner's lunge. Notice if you're rounding in your spine. See if you can engage and find length. So find that slight activity and then settle here. Everything gets heavy. And then draw that left heel back so it meets, the left knee meets your right. Come back into that tabletop position. Tuck your toes under. Inhale here. Exhale, lift your hips up and back. Downward facing dog. On your next inhale, lift your right leg up towards the ceiling. Square your hips. Right toes pulled in towards your nose. Then on that exhale, draw that knee to your chest. Step it through. Finding that low lunge on the opposite side. So you're walking that left leg back behind you. Right foot is going to work towards the outer edge of your mat so that your right arm can come to the inside comfortably. Start up tall first. So find that light grounding through that right heel, left shin. Slight squeeze through that inner pelvis so you find that lift. Then again, keep those actions and then be heavy and release. If you feel like you can move to the next step, maybe you drop down onto your forearms. If you're on your forearms, you can play with pressing through your forearms, drawing your chest through, or maybe you want to completely round. Wherever you are, if that right leg is falling out, that's okay, but just actively, lightly hug it in towards your midline, whether it moves or not. So often in yoga, and especially in a yin style class, you may not actually get movement with your activation of your muscles. It may be a lot more energetic. Just feel the difference of connecting with your muscles and engaging, and then being able to have that control to turn them on and turn them off. This will help you notice where you grip or where your tendencies are to strain or grip, whether that's in your head, your neck, your shoulders, your hips. Once you have that awareness, then allows you to soften if you're overacting or over gripping. And we're going to press back up. We'll plant through that left hand. Let that right knee open up for a revolved dragon here. Again, draw that right knee away from that right hip. You're trying to draw it long instead of trying to open it up. Two more breaths. And then help that outer right knee come back into center. We'll find that runner's lunge variation. Again, for the first one, have those toes rotated out, so hip is externally rotated, and then send your hips back here. It's almost in like a half butterfly or bound angle pose or diamond pose in that right leg. See if you can send your sit bones back towards that left heel. And then keeping that hip externally rotated, begin to straighten through that right leg any amount. For me, that means I need to bring my blocks or support up higher. And work to square your hips here. And again, maybe you play with them, your hips dumping, relaxing, activating. Just notice how that'll change the stretch. Or change where you can have the opportunity to create space in an area of your body or to create a softening. And then I'm going to rotate those toes up towards the ceiling, coming into a more traditional runner's stretch. Adjusting my hips, lengthening through my spine, finding that action in my quadricep, and then letting that leg be heavy. And then draw that right knee back to meet the left. And then we're going to return to that hero's pose that we did at the beginning of class. So if you were sitting on a block or a blanket or a big pillow, let's go ahead and return to that. So the blanket's going to come in between your hips, knees together, heels outside of your hips. Sit up nice and tall. Settle back in here. And then interlace your hands behind your back. Lift your chest. And then I'm going to bend my elbows. I'm going to bring my hands to the outside of that left hip. So from the side or from the back, this is where I'm at here. I'm drawing that left elbow in towards my midline, trying to roll both biceps towards the front of the room. And then once we're here, I'm going to draw my neck over to the left. Drawing that right shoulder down and back. Reaching that left elbow down and back behind me. Core slightly engaged so my rib cage is not flaring forward. Then I'm going to bring my chin to my chest and draw my right ear towards my right shoulder. And then come back upright, release the clasp, shake out your hands, shake out your wrists. Maybe wave them front to back, side to side, in circles, both sides. And then we'll re-interlace our hands, finding the opposite clasp. So find that little wonky position where the opposite index finger goes on top. So you'll find that interlace behind your back, reach down through your knuckles, chest tall. And then bend your elbows, bring your wrists to the outside of that right hip this time. Hug that right elbow down and back. Both biceps rolling forward. Holding here for one breath. And then draw that chin to your chest and then rock that right ear over to that right shoulder. Left shoulder drawing down and back. So notice in this posture, see if you can be heavy and relaxed in your legs and your pelvis. And then notice how the support here is going to come through your core, the bowl of your pelvis. Maybe up through your spine. And then chin rocks back down towards your chest. And left ear rocks over to left shoulder. Notice if that right elbow wants to creep forward, draw it in. Keep it engaged. And then chin back down towards the center. And then lift your head up. Release and shake it out once again. And we're going to move into a saddle pose or a reclined hero. So this may take some maneuvering and manipulating on your part. So maybe being in that pose for a while now, you're like, oh, I need to sit up a little bit higher. So maybe it's 2 blankets, maybe it's 2 blankets and a block, maybe it's a bigger pillow. But wherever we're at, we're going to begin to lean backwards and maybe coming on to our elbows, maybe finding support on our blocks, maybe releasing all the way down towards the earth. Maybe none of these are options for you. If that's the case, maybe you're just leaning back on your elbows here. So just bringing a deeper stretch into those quadriceps, maybe that hip flexors that connect to your low back. So this can help release some low back stiffness or maybe pain. If you're able to lean back but you need support, you can prop up a big bolster or lean back against the edge of your couch, or maybe walk back and release back onto your blocks. 1 block under your shoulders, 1 block under your head. Wherever you are, you want to find a position that you can hold for a good 2 minutes. If at any point this becomes too much on your knees, on your low back, just come out of it and find that upright position. This yin practice helps us find our limits, our boundaries, helps us to set boundaries. So that we don't push ourselves too much, but we just push ourselves just enough to promote change, to promote growth, to welcome in these new variations that our body and our breath and our mind can take. You're starting to get antsy, with the postures beginning to be more intense, but still in a safe, intense feeling. Just deepen your breath, return to the inhaling love, exhaling peace. Again, if the intensity is moving towards severe discomfort or pain, or just doesn't seem right, please move yourself out of the position. We must practice ahimsa, or non-harming. This practice of non-harming helps to encourage, instead, loving kindness towards ourselves, patience, acceptance. Showering ourselves with that self-acceptance and love and patience and kindness will enable us to do that for those around us, whether loved ones and friends or maybe strangers. As you begin to make your way out of this posture, find some engagement in your core. Gently press yourself up. Lift up onto your knees And then stretch one leg back and be nice and slow. Maybe it feels vulnerable behind the knees since we held that position for quite some time. Maybe you want to rock forward and back. And then drop that knee down. We'll find that on the other side. Maybe you're holding this position, or maybe you're finding a little rock. And then we're going to move through that child's cobra flow again, but in circles this time. Instead of front to back, going down or up first, we're going to find that in circles. So we'll start in a child's pose here. We'll press through our palms, and then we'll shift our hips to the right, up and around, coming through center and over to the left. We'll do that for a couple rounds. And invite your head to be heavy. Have your head go in the opposite direction of your hips. So you're almost creating a little S curve from your hips to your neck. Just begin to observe any changes in your body. And then change directions. Maybe it feels more groovy and smooth to move through this position. Maybe the breath is coming more natural. Or maybe you're still finding or feeling some crickety cracks that you can still let go through the next postures we have coming up. And I promise this crickety crack, if you can hear it, it is the floors. It's my hardwood floors, not my body. If not, I would have a lot more work to do, yin-wise. Let's go ahead and move into a half butterfly position. So reach that right leg forward. Left knee is going to come in. Left foot is going to come into that right inner thigh. You can work hips square here, or if you want to take it slightly different, you can open that right leg out to the side. So it's more of an open butterfly position. So whatever you feel like you want to try here, or maybe during the hold, you try both variations. If you have that sandbag, that bag of rice, or that cat that wants to hang out with you, you can place it on that right thigh. That'll help you feel more grounded and stable. And then sit up nice and tall. Maybe here's a good time for a block to rest your head on, or if you're using a chair for support, it can be out in front of you, and then you just reach and rest your forehead on that chair. So find what's comfortable for you. And then you're going to just begin to extend your nose towards your toes, resting your forehead, palms turned up towards the ceiling, shoulders dropping down away from your ears. Find a balance of action through that right leg, and then softness through that left thigh, your foot, that knee. Notice how your posterior spine may have to engage so you can elongate and lengthen. And then gently roll yourself upright. We're going to bring our hand to the outside of that left knee and prop it up here. Then you want that foot to the outside of that left sit bone. Maybe it'll feel more comfortable if you prop yourself up under that right hip, and then that left hip will kind of drop down off the edge of your blanket here. Sit up nice and tall. So you have a couple options here. Maybe you just interlace your forearms in front of your shin and just lift up tall and just kind of hug that knee. So that can be one variation for you. Maybe you can walk yourself inside, or your torso inside that left leg, finding a fold here. Once again, stay moderately active through that right leg and that right foot. But see if you can let that left hip, that left sit bones sink and anchor down towards the earth. Feel grounded and supported. When you feel ready, begin to stack your vertebrae to come back upright. And we're going to begin to find a seated spinal twist, but with this right leg staying long. You can move that weight off your thigh if you have it. Now place your left leg to the outside of that right thigh. Draw that left knee in towards your chest with that right forearm, and then the left hand reaches back behind you. You can draw that left hip back with you and take it in the twist. Don't worry about keeping your hips square here. You're working on keeping your chest long. And instead of taking our gaze over our left shoulder here, we're going to take our gaze over our right shoulder. So we'll look more towards the front of our mat here to promote a more calming sensation rather than energizing when we look behind into the twist or towards the twist. So see if you can stack your spine here. Crown of your head grows tall. Not forcing any area of your spine into the twist, but just letting it evolve and rotate with your breath as the space becomes available. Two more breaths here. Expanding through your belly and your rib cage on the inhale. And then moving into that space on your exhale. Gently unwind here. Uncross that left leg. You can windshield wiper out your feet, maybe bounce through your knees a little bit. If you're on that seated support for that half butterfly pose, you can sit off of it, or if it's comfortable to be up a little bit higher, you can stay there. So activate through that left leg. Right foot comes into that inner thigh, almost into a seated tree pose. Again, you can have this pose more open, almost into a half dragonfly, or be straight up here. And here, find your support that you need for your forehead, and then begin to elongate. Think of it as a forward extension as opposed to a forward fold. We're not trying to collapse, but instead we're trying to elongate and find space. Finding space in our back body from that left heel all the way to that left hip. And then space through our front and back and side bodies of our torso. Length through our neck as we support our head.
Maybe let an exhale out of your mouth with a sigh. Surrendering on that exhale. And then wave yourself back up to an upright position. Draw that right knee up towards the ceiling. And then move that seated support underneath that left hip here. So that left hip kind of falls down. That'll help to even out your pelvis. Your right heel is to the outside of your sit bones. Again, maybe you sit up nice and tall, hug your knee into your chest and hold here, being heavy through that right pelvis. Maybe you just curl up into a little ball here. Or maybe you begin to try to extend long, reaching forward. Notice in a position like this where you might not have as much space in your body, your breath might begin to feel restricted or compromised. That may increase tension or anxiety. So begin to find a deeper, slower breath. Not trying to force anything, but moving within the motion and space that you have. See if you can become content in feeling some discomfort or abnormality in your tissues or in your breath. Practice finding contentment as opposed to resistance. Gently begin to stack your vertebrae. And we'll move into that seated spinal twist here. So right leg comes to the outside of that right shin, knee, or upper thigh. Draw that knee into your chest with your left arm. Right arm reaches up or back behind you, right about in line with your tailbone. Inhale, grow tall. And then exhale, rotate that torso any amount. Again, gaze over that left shoulder here, instilling a sense of calm and quiet. See if you can broaden through your chest any amount more. Find length in all sides of your neck. Observe the breath here and notice how it may feel different from the pose we did before, where you might have been more restricted or contained. Maybe you feel more openness here, or perhaps this twist does provide some resistance. If that's the case, just return to a soft, deep breath. Welcoming in the air. I'll gently begin to unwind. Straighten that right leg. Pedal out your knees. Rock your feet from side to side. We're going to lay onto our backs into a supported fish pose. So if you don't have two blocks, here's a great time to find that blanket roll. And you will place this blanket roll. You have two options. You can either place it in between your shoulder blades,
this way lengthwise, or right at the base of your shoulder blades, perpendicular to your spine. If you have blocks or something that's similar to it, you're going to take the block on the lowest level and you're going to take it where the bottom of the block is at the bottom of your shoulder blades, and you're going to lean back here. So again, whether you're laying on a block or a block-like support or your towel roll, and then take another support for underneath your head. We're going to take it slightly higher than the other block. You can bring your arms by your side, palms up. Begin to settle in here. Let your legs externally rotate. Your shoulders drawing back and down. Feeling openness in your chest. Your head is completely supported and heavy here. Here's a great time also to find that sandbag or whatever sandbag substitute you may have and place it on your belly here. Help to facilitate that grounding, that stillness, that deep diaphragmatic breath. So feel free to stay here for another 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But if not, begin to prop yourself up. If your towel roll is already parallel to your spine, keep it there. If not, if you're using a block, rotate it so it's parallel to your spine. Top of the block is at the top of your shoulders. And we're going to just do some shoulder range of motion here. So begin with some snow angels. Only going up as high as you can go, keeping the backs of your hands on the ground. The next time your arms are overhead, leave them there. Let your elbows bend so that your arms, upper arms, forearms are fully supported. And then bend your knees, bring your feet mats width apart, and just begin to windshield wiper your knees from side to side here. Moving any props out of the way. So this motion can be as fluid and flowy as possible. And just relish in this movement. Maybe feel the massage of that towel or block on your spine. Maybe it's mobilizing some tight spots in your tissues. Maybe you're getting a little mobilization of your ribs or your vertebrae. And you can feel free to pause, either to your left or your right, holding this position. Sending your breath into any areas of tension or restriction. And then the next time you're over on your right side, just continue to roll yourself over, press yourself up. And then grab your blocks or supports. And we're going to find our final pose, a reclined butterfly pose. So you're going to have your feet together, knees open out wide. And then you'll reach your arms out in front of you. On your inhale, you'll round your middle back. On your exhale, lower your tailbone.
lower back, middle back, upper back, shoulders and head. And then take either pillows, blankets, or blocks and prop them underneath either your outer hips, your knees, your shins, just so that your thighs feel fully supported. Have it to where you are getting a stretch in your groins or in your knees, in your legs. But then just wedge just a slight bit of support so that you can still find softening. We don't want any gripping here. We want to welcome the change in our tissues. And then grab that sandbag, that bag of rice, or call that cat or dog over to lay on your belly. Then a couple options for your arms here. You can have your arms by your side, palms up. Or maybe you want to find that diamond once again with your arms overhead, thumb and index fingers together like we did in child's. As you lay here in this posture, bringing your awareness to one area of the body. And begin to notice the subtle shifts that begin to occur. Maybe that area of the body is the palm of a hand, a hip bone, the sole of your foot or an ankle, the back of your neck. Just keep your awareness focused here, inviting in change and subtle movements and shifts. You can maintain this position for your Shavasana or final resting pose. If you want to take a more traditional version, begin to straighten through your legs. Let your feet fall out to the side. Walk your hands and arms back down by your sides. And begin to settle in and to maintain your focus in your stargazer or Shavasana pose. Inhale peace throughout your body and exhale love into the world around you. Inhale peace, exhale love. And if your mind starts to wander, just return to that breath focus. Enjoy your Shavasana.
Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your awareness back to your body. Begin wiggling your fingers and toes and roll through your wrists and your ankles in each direction. Rock your head from side to side, massaging along the base of your skull, relishing in this movement, this mobility that your body allows. Bring your feet together, reach your arms overhead, stretch from the tips of your toes out through your fingertips. Inhaling in your nose, exhale out your mouth with an audible sigh. And then gently roll over onto your right side. Pausing here to thank yourself for taking this pause in your day to provide some self-love, some self-care, some relaxation. And feel the rejuvenation and energy that you've created in your mind and your body. Then keeping your eyes soft or closed, press into that left hand and wave yourself up to a comfortable seat. Returning to that natural rhythm of your breath. Inhaling peace, exhale love. Buddha says, you yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserves your love and affection. May you keep this in mind as you move forward with your day, your week, or your month ahead. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. Hope to see you next time. Take care.